What's up, Clem?
Oh, man.
Hey, greetings.
How you doing, man? You're all bundled up. Look at you. It's Florida, man.
I mean, what's the temperature out here today? It's a cool 63 in the shade.
In the shade, you're right. Yeah, if you're in the shade, I can see that. Oh, look at that. We got Ken. Ken's on. What's going on, man? Dev's on. Everybody feeling good?
Feeling good, feeling great.
Greg switched up the cameras, so I don't know if that's going to take like a recall.
No, I'm good. It didn't want to use my webcam, so I'm just sitting down so that I'm not hovering over people like a crazy person. All right.
It happens.
It's 57 degrees, Nick. There you go.
Is it really 57?
Yeah.
I got my little, pullover going on too. I can't judge. Well, thanks for joining, man.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we got Ken and Debbie. We got some catalysts in here.
No doubt. Well, let's do just a quick introduction. My name is Nick Snap. I am the host of the Make It Snappy Productivity Blab, but I'm also the host of the Make It Snappy Productivity Show, which is a podcast that releases a new episode every week. And we just put one out here today with a guy named Andrew Frazier. Getting a little bit of wind there. Clem, is that you?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Let me try to get my other headset, see if that works any better.
Yeah, that might be all right. Greg, you still on? I felt like I hear you, but maybe you jumped off for a little bit. All right. Well, there he is.
Trying to be productive, man.
Wow. Oh, you look so much more relaxed now.
I'm not sure what happened, but my whole feed went out.
All right. I started to do a little introduction. It got a little wind, and the video cut out and everything. But we're recording now, and we're on. So this Blab thing, I'm loving the Blab thing. It's better than Periscope because it's not just me, like getting distracted by people putting comments in and stuff like that on the little sidebar. I'm trying to say something. I love the comments, but it's a different dynamic. The Blab is a really good dynamic.
Yeah.
You're gonna use that pullover as like a windscreen?
Is it still windy?
No, you're good. You're good, man.
Oh, okay. Hey, man, I'm trying to protect my neck. You gotta.
Right. In the frigid Florida air here.
That's right. So what are we talking about today?
Man, we were talking about entrepreneurial effectiveness, and if any of you guys have heard my story with the podcast or anything that I put out there, Greg Faxon, my coach right here in the bottom left, at least on my screen, he's always part of the details. So I'm really happy and for this rare opportunity, man, to have you on here. If anybody's listening to my podcast, the Make It Happy Productivity Show, you probably heard me coach people several times. Actually, in fact, Clem, we had a little quasi coaching session there on episode 5.
Right.
It's I think it's almost my most popular episode because
yeah,
smooth voice that you have.
I'm curious, Clem, what are you up to these days? Because I didn't catch that podcast.
Okay, well, I am transitioning out of the field of sports videography, so I'm going to stop shooting sports for Orlando Magic, stuff like that. But I'm going to transitioning more into a full-time basis of being a video projectionist for convention services. So I travel across the country and work at different conventions. Yeah, cool. Setting up their widescreen video projectors and stuff like that.
That's awesome. Great stuff, man.
Yeah. But today I'm off. I took today off because my son has a Valentine's Day dance at his school tonight. What? So I decided not to go into work and stay home so that we can go as a family to his dance.
He's like 7, right?
He'll be 7 in March, yeah.
Okay. They do.
So first grade.
I remember in school getting all those Valentine's cards. It was the best. Did you guys do that in your school? Like everyone would write each other Valentine's?
Yeah. He told me today, he said, "Dad, we've got to get the Smartie candies for Valentine's Day." That's the thing, the Smartie candies. That's what he wants this year.
Critical.
Definitely. And Deborah just said hi. Thanks for joining in, Deb.
Hey, Debbie.
Oh, I put Jai Deb. I meant to say hi, Deb. Sorry. Plus the caps lock is a little weird. But yeah, I want to give everybody. Greg agreed to be on. Just give everybody kind of a rare opportunity, I guess, to see. You can listen to me coach people. Greg's my coach, man. He's just meant a lot to me over the years. from the whole journey from start to beginning. Owe a lot to Greg. I don't think I'd be on this Blab, probably not, if it wasn't for Greg. Definitely wouldn't have the podcast, all that kind of stuff. So kudos to you, man. Thanks for being on.
Yeah, I've heard your name a lot, man. I've heard your name a lot.
Yeah, I mean, Nick, you did the work, man. I'm hearing a little bit of an echo, so I'm wondering if one of you doesn't have your headphones plugged in, or
I don't know.
if that's just the feed.
Is it better at all?
Yeah, I can't. I'm just echoing, but
yeah, you're echoing a little bit. But I turned my little gain down a little bit. I don't know if that helps or not, but
all right.
We got the mixer board going on. It's nice and professional like that. So, one thing that I wanted to kind of talk to everybody about and get Greg on. I mean, this is about entrepreneurial effectiveness, right? So one thing, it was interesting in my episode today, Greg, we just ironically talked about this yesterday, adding a little bit of a comedy kind of element to the podcast. So I opened up my episode this week with a little skit with myself and my wife, who played Chewbacca, and it was
Chewie.
Yeah, Chewbacca. And in that skit, I guess it's just kind of resonating in the forefront of my mind. We talked about surrounding yourself with, well, more or less, Chewbacca was not surrounding himself with the right people. It could be some toxic people in his environment, right? So I had a little Periscope today about surrounding yourself with the right people. And, had I not met you, Greg, Clem, if you weren't in just like complete support like you are every week, you and I probably touch base about every other day, consistently talking about, everything that we do as fathers and husbands and entrepreneurs. And then this Tampa Bay Business Owners group that I'm a member of, man, it's like, if you don't surround yourself with the right people, then effectiveness as an entrepreneur is so much slower, if not non-existent. I mean, you guys.
Very true. Very true. I feel like it's getting that right team. Like you hear artists when they're, on their reality shows or whatever, always talk about their team. And my team helped me with this. My team helped me with that. And we are artists in our own way, trying to create life, our job, our family, and it's always about supporting or finding that great support group to help you to continue toward the goal that you're having, whatever goal it is.
It really is about that right support group. And, just Greg, both you guys have been a fantastic support group. And Ken's calling it right now too. So give Ken a little bit of props when he dials in here to this run. What's up, man?
Hey guys.
What's up, Ken?
How are you, brother?
That was a total accident. It's in my pocket, but.
Oh, Ken ass dialed us.
So I was thinking it was funny because you were going around and like applauding all of us, and I was like, "Wow, Ken's really liking what I'm saying," as I'm just sitting here silently.
Oh, you get some props for that.
Yeah, I've got six. I got six props from him ass dialing us. You're in Target right now, aren't you?
I'm in Target.
I can tell by the backdrop.
Good
hair day. It's a good hair day, Ken.
It's a great hair day.
Definitely, man.
Yeah.
So
perfect.
So Greg, I want to kind of just fire off some like rapid fire questions to you, man.
Yeah.
And everybody kind of hear your story about effectiveness. Maybe you can just go into a little bit about who you are and what you have going on and how you got into this coaching thing, and then touch a little bit about just what do you see as being the number one strategy, I guess, for a new entrepreneur to take that first step and be effective. What are your thoughts on that, man?
Sure. Yeah. So I'll just keep it brief. I mean, I do high performance coaching for entrepreneurs, people who are champion hearted, people who are working on businesses that have a positive impact in the world. And one of the biggest challenges that group has typically is what I call creative avoidance, which is different than procrastination. Procrastination is driven by laziness. And it's kind of like, oh, I'm on Facebook or I'm on Blab right now, but I should be working on this blog post. So consciously, you know that you should be doing something else. Creative avoidance is a little different, and it's what's really an issue for driven entrepreneurs, because rarely are driven entrepreneurs really procrastinating, but one issue that they have is they're keeping themselves busy with peripheral tasks, with tasks that are indirect. And so what creative avoidance is you're doing things that your mind is like, okay, I'll do anything but. So for me, as an example, I was doing everything but speaking up until this year, because I knew I wanted to speak. It was a scary thing, and often the things that are most meaningful to us are also the most scary, because if we fail or if we look stupid, that really hurts because it's so core to who we are. And so for entrepreneurs who maybe you were in an office environment and you used to have a boss and a team that held your feet to the fire, but now you can creatively avoid for days. You can creatively avoid your whole career on something that was really core to your genius and core to your brilliance, the thing you were good at, but you're doing everything around on the outside. And that's the biggest challenge that I see. And that's a lot of what I help entrepreneurs with. It's interesting, as I was listening to Clem talk about that team, one of the biggest things that you can do to fight creative avoidance is have that accountability built in, and have people who know you really well, who can say, hey, I see you're doing a lot of this, but you're saying you want to do this, but you haven't really done it yet. And that's something we do in Catalyst, Nick, in the group coaching program, and Debbie's on, and we just heard from Ken, and they're all in my program, is getting together with a group of people that get to know you really well. And they're all other entrepreneurs who are game changers, and they can say, hey, you're saying this, but I think you really need to do this. Like, we were on a call yesterday, Nick, I hope you don't mind us sharing, but like for you, it was like, I need to do a bunch of things, but I also just need to get some sleep, which is interesting because we don't think about like you would creatively avoid sleep, but sometimes that's scary to go to sleep because there's so much that you think, I got to get this done. And really the thing that would move you forward was just conking out for a few extra hours. And so you can hide from this stuff all day. And that's one of the things that's really helpful, to have a coach there, or an accountability buddy, or a good team or group that sees your potential and says, I'm not letting you back down from this thing. I know it's scary, but what's one action that you could do today to move it forward?
Yeah, man, I agree. It's interesting you put that in that perspective. Like, was I really creatively avoiding sleep? And when I think about it, I think I was, because there's that fear, right? Like, if I don't do a certain amount of work, or if I don't get up at a certain hour, then I'm not going to move the needle forward. I'm not going to have enough time in the day to do the things that really matter. But then as the day kind of moves on, from a productivity perspective, like your energy level starts going down. If you're not sleeping, you're not being productive. So like things are taking you longer to get done. So it's like you want to, but you got to make a conscious decision to go to bed early. Like, I think when I asked you originally, Greg, to get on this Blab, this is kind of how this came to be. My normal Blab is Wednesdays at 9 p.m. Like, so Clem and I get on there pretty regularly at 9 p.m. on Wednesday. And you're like, dude, I go to sleep at that time. And I was like, whoa, what? Like,
yeah, good night.
Really early for me and kind of scary, right?
Yeah.
But like, if I were to make that conscious decision, it does. There's a fear there. So like, am I really avoiding sleep? I can completely relate to that. I think that there is a piece of that in creative avoidance.
Well, I know for me, I just started wearing like one of the trackers. It's a Garmin. I'm using a Garmin tracker, and it has the whole sleep pattern. And I've been looking at my sleep patterns, because there's a lot of times when I'm working 16-hour day shows and I only get 8 hours off, but you got that time, that hour beforehand to settle down or to get ready for the day, that hour on the backside to wind down. So it's like I'm only really getting 6 hours of rest. But then I've been tracking to see how much time I'm actually getting of deep sleep versus light sleep. And if your whole production level on the next day is affected by that amount of sleep that you're getting. You have to rest, you have to recharge.
I love what you're saying. I don't want to like completely like derail what you said, but do you think you might be able to like hold your mic when you talk? Because I think it's bouncing off your jacket or something. Yeah.
I'm sorry about that.
No, it's all good. Otherwise, you sound good. Yeah, we don't need to dwell too much on the
that
sleep,
silky voice.
But one of the funny things about that is scientists just figured out literally recently what sleep actually does. Like, why they always knew we need sleep. You need to get sleep. But they recently figured out it's cycling the cortical fluids, the spinal fluids, and it's actually recycling it. So it's the same thing as if you cleaned, your water filter. And if you don't sleep for a while, you notice you get foggy. Literally all your perception starts to get foggy, and then you get that really good night's sleep and you're like, I'm totally clear, everything's lighter. That's because literally you've cycled those fluids through. So if you're not doing that, then you're actually losing time, right? Like the less you sleep, the more time you lose actually during the day. And that's how you know it's creative avoidance, right? Because creative avoidance, you can be brave or you can be busy. You can be brave or you can be busy. Because as an entrepreneur, you shouldn't be proud of being busy. That's a bad thing. If you're busy, there's a problem. You need to be laser focused, because the things that you're creatively avoiding on, it's like that one thing would make everything else either easier or irrelevant. Like you can focus on the blog or something, but really you need to be going and focused on getting clients. If you just got clients, fuck the blog. Like, we don't even need the blog. You got clients. So it's like we work on this peripheral stuff and it keeps you busy. And that's why when I hear someone being like, I have no time, right? Like, for example, a lot of times people will say like, I don't have time to meditate. And it's like, if you don't have time to meditate, that's how I know you need to meditate. You know, like that's why you need to meditate. Same with sleep. Like, I don't have time for that. It's like saying, another thing people will say with meditation, I'm just bringing up this stuff because it's things that are self-care stuff that entrepreneurs leave behind. Sleep and meditation. Like, a lot of times people will say, oh, I just have too many thoughts to meditate. I have too much going on in my head. It's like, exactly. That's why I'm telling you to meditate. It's like an obese person saying, I want to go to the gym, but I'm overweight. It's like, that's why we're telling you to go to the gym. Right? So it's like, if you think you have too many thoughts to meditate, that's why you need to just sit down and be quiet for a second. Because the thing about creative avoidance, Nick and Clem, is that pausing kills it. Just some presence kills it. Because if you stay busy, the fear keeps you busy, so you don't have enough time to recognize, oh, this is the thing that really scares me. If you just stop and step back for one moment and say, okay, what's really that scary thing that I'm avoiding? It'll come to you, and then it's done. And so that's sometimes just creating those pauses in your day is what combats creative avoidance the best.
I was watching, there's a show called Billions. I think it's on Showtime or something like that. And there was 2 different scenes where I saw these very successful men. They would have an app on their phone, and it had the timer, one of them had a candle on it, and it had a timer, and they would just sit there and meditate and wait for that candle to finish burning or for that timer to go off. That was their pause, and they had it scheduled in their day, and they would go by the app to just take that time to meditate and reflect, and then go with the rest of their day, that creative pause that you're talking about.
Is that like something they do in the first part of the day, or do you guys recommend in the middle of the day, or what for meditation?
I think it varies on the person. I mean, for me, I feel like I need to take a pause in the morning to think about my day, to make sure I have everything in my car or just like planned. If I have tasks that I need to run, things to do. So take that creative pause in the morning, and then another one midday, and maybe another one at night. It's like a meal. You know, you have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. For me, take those creative pauses 3 times a day.
Yeah, I mean, I always recommend if someone's listening to this and they don't have a meditation habit yet, I recommend doing it first thing when you get up. And that's what I would recommend for any habit that you want to install that you haven't installed yet. Like, if I do it first thing when I get up, I know it's going to get done. Like, I can't do anything else until I do it. If you say I'm going to go to the gym later in the day, it just, stuff gets busy, you know? So for me, it's like, I would start with 5 minutes right when you get up, get out of bed, go sit in a chair and go meditate. And then I found, you just advance as you go on. Like with what Clem's saying, I found it's really nice to have one right before dinner. Like, I actually drink less if I meditate right before dinner. This is a weird thing, but I don't need alcohol because I don't need to numb all the craziness in my head because I just took a pause and meditated. And so you'll notice all of your interactions start to change, the way you behave in the world. So that 30 minutes before dinner is good too. I would recommend don't do it right after a meal because your body's digesting, so it's processing energy, and you don't want to also be meditating while that's going on. So I recommend doing it, before a meal, or not even close to a meal. But that's what I would recommend. The second thing that I want to throw out on creative avoidance for people who are listening is making clean cuts in your day. And Nick, you described this slightly differently, but the bottom line is that you're batching things because too many people they're doing Facebook. They're also doing their blog. They're like, even people will coach or work with clients and they're doing shit. It's like, be present in the thing that you're doing. It's really important because if you make clean cuts, if you don't let everything bleed into the next thing, then you can be much more aware of how you're actually using your time, right? And just time tracking is really important too. Like Nick, you were telling the group yesterday that you wanted to get into a lot more of that with your clients. Is just, we all know we should be tracking our time and figuring out how we're actually spending time. Because unless you're aware of it, you don't know if you're creatively avoiding. Like, the first step is just awareness. Am I doing things that are moving the bottom line? And you've been thinking like, oh, I want to actually get really hands-on with clients about that, which I think is brilliant.
Yeah, and it's shocking, actually. When I started tracking my time, as an entrepreneur, I was doing it as an employee. It was like a real kind of autopilot sort of thing for me. But when I started doing it as an entrepreneur, I just could not believe how much time I was spending on certain tasks. Like the podcast was over 8 hours a week, which blew my mind, man. I thought it was like 3. Like I was like more than like 70% off on my estimate of what I was spending. So like, it's just, and then you're like, okay, well, why is this taking me so much time? Then you can start breaking it down into its component parts, right? What are the different process steps? How much of this do I actually need to be doing myself and all that kind of stuff? So yeah, the time studies the awareness is huge because you don't know what you don't know yet. And it takes that discipline. So like, how do you set up a system and a process to make it easy for people to track their time without, being like another thing that they need to do in the day.
Right. Don't make your time tracking become a task where you feel overwhelmed by, oh God, I need to track this time.
Yeah. How do you make it easy? So I'm working with a retainer client now. Great company called Integral Energy, and they're in the natural gas business. And I'm working with the relationship managers there, and just like doing the same exact exercise. Okay, what are these different meetings that you have set up? How much travel time you doing? Could different things be batching and categorizing them appropriately, and then doing the analysis after that. And it's been eye-opening. Like, it's so far for me as kind of putting the stuff in together, and you really with the goal at the end of the day is like, okay, what actions, what trigger points happen to get that contract, right? To close that contract, like all these different things that you did. You invested, say, a total of 40 hours in this particular client, you didn't get anything, but then you put 3 hours in on this other one and you just got a $40,000 deal. Like, how does that work? And how can we do more of those activities versus the other? So it's like the 80-20 principle, right? The 20% of your activities are getting you 80% of your results. So how do you do more of those 20? So it kind of all feeds into each other, in my opinion, when you look at your time management.
Another thing, can I add something to that?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, another thing, something I found helpful is there's this app, especially if you have Chrome, it's probably on the other browsers too, but it's just called Time Tracker, and it'll just accumulate the hours you spend on websites. So like, I have over 8 days tracked on Facebook right now. Like, that's huge. Like, but here's the thing, and this is a kind of a mastery level move with creative avoidance. But I realized I was spending so much time on Facebook that, like, I love Facebook. Why don't I just make that part of my business? Like, most of my clients come from Facebook now. So great. Yeah. So use the thing that I used to be creatively avoiding it to go indirect. So just as long as you're using it the right way, it's fantastic. So again, pro level move, but figure out the ways you're creatively avoiding and figure out how can I tweak those tasks just a little bit so that they actually get me results. Because oftentimes that's totally doable, and go with your natural patterns on that.
Yeah, that's a good point. I use rescue time myself, which is a very similar thing. They just track the different time that you spend on programs. And I just found it frustrating to me a little bit. Like, it could tell me something like 8 days on Facebook, or it could tell me that I had Evernote open for 27 days straight. And I always kind of have that open. So for me, it wasn't granular enough. It didn't give me enough information to know, okay, yeah, I was in these different programs, but unless I had the discipline to try to figure out what exactly I was doing in these programs, I didn't have quite as much benefit. I mean, like, from an overall awareness perspective, I guess, it's good to know how much time you're spending in these different areas, but I felt like it's a little bit more valuable for me, at least, to like, what is the task, not just like, the program. If there was a good app, which, I mean, I have one on my phone called a Time Logger. Yeah, a Time Logger 2 is what I'm using. That would be a brilliant app because I can add my own categories and activities, etc. And then if it were to export to Excel, it'd be perfect because I can actually do models and stuff like that. The engineer geek in me could come out. But yeah, just knowing like what programs to me it just wasn't quite enough to. Oh, we got somebody, Robert. Nah, come on in, man. Yeah. Perfect. All right.
Yeah, no, Greg, for me, I realized how much time I was spending on Instagram. And so what I did was created a company Instagram page, or, Instagram page where I was only post projection work and, clemco.av. And that way I can still kind of see what's going on in my friends' lives, but it's also, being responsible to make sure that I'm also representing myself on my business ventures as well, instead of just searching for browse time.
Welcome, Robert. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for calling in.
Yeah.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Robert, tell us about yourself, man.
Yeah, it's got to be kind of weird. I don't think I've ever done it yet. Just kind of calling in to a Blab. I wanted to before. It's got to be like kind of rolling the dice. Who's gonna show up on the screens? That's cool. I really appreciate you coming in, man. So, you want to do a little introduction, or?
I can only just hear you, actually. Hang on, let me see if I can increase your volume a bit.
All right. Maybe.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you perfectly fine. Yeah.
Yeah, you're coming in clear.
Okay, I can hear Greg clear, and Clem I can hear quite clearly. It's just Nick. So, okay.
Interesting. How about I get right on this microphone like
yeah.
True radio guy.
Thanks very much.
Better.
Okay, I'm phoning in from the UK. Sorry, it's taken me a while to find my way to get on, actually.
Oh, this is cool. I love technology nowadays, man. Like you're in the UK, we're here, we're talking to each other. This is fantastic. So
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Yeah.
Robert, we're in the UK.
I'm west of Birmingham, so it's an area called the Midlands. So it's the middle of the UK, but slightly west. So Birmingham is sort of right in the middle of the UK, and I'm sort of in between Birmingham and Wales.
Awesome. What inspired you to get on the Blab? How did you find out about
Well, I was
the Blab?
getting a couple of emails from you. It's through your continued connection that then the recent one I got today, I think, or maybe it came through yesterday. And so I followed I followed the directions, but it took me a while. So I'm sorry.
Is this your first time on Blab?
It's my first time on Blab. Yeah. I've never even heard of Blab.
Robert,
Well, I think I love about Blab is like it's one of the newest social media platforms, right? So we're kind of on the cutting edge of it, and I think it's going to be huge.
What I enjoyed about Blab is I mentioned this to a couple of my fraternity brothers. When we were in college, we used to have seminars all the time. In one of the dorm rooms, or I'm sorry, there's a helicopter or airplane going by. but we used to have seminars all the time with different attendees and sitting there, and this is basically a webinar. We're able to sit around, have a topic in mind, and no matter where you live in the world, you can get in on it. It's really
yeah. I recognize Keenan Amar just joined. Thanks for joining, man.
Thank you. And is there a cost, just so I'm clear on it? Does someone have to pay to sort of create this connection we have together?
Yes, Robert, you're paying my bank account, right?
Yeah, it's just coming in.
I need it right now.
Totally free to host a Blab. Robert, I just want to let you know, man, it's really good to see my people. It's like I send out content to this big list, and I view each email address as an individual, but I don't always get to actually connect with them. So I'm really glad you joined us today, man.
Thank you. Yeah,
why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
What are you working on these days?
Say again?
What are you working on?
What am I working on? Well, I'm a business coach. So I have some clients that have been with me for quite a long while, and I'm looking for. I think what I notice I miss is personal interaction and connection. I enjoy my coaching, but I like more group involvement, more human involvement and connection. I tend to sort of find I'm quite often, even though sometimes going to see my clients, sometimes I speak to them on the phone. So quite a lot of the time I can be operating on my own, and that doesn't seem to suit me. I'm sort of looking to see how I can get a little bit more group involvement, more personal human contact. I'm missing that.
Totally. I get it, man. I mean, especially in the online world. And as a coach, you have these really deep connections with your clients. And also at the same time, it's not the same as a social connection. So can I ask you a question?
Sure.
What might that look like to you when you say you're wanting more personal kind of connection? Do you mean within your business, outside of your business, both?
Well, no, predominantly within my business. I think I have enough social connections to. Well, I don't know. I could probably improve those as well, actually. But what I find is that by operating quite on my own during the day, quite often then that goes on into the evening. I don't get sort of then so socially organized to do something in the evening. It's almost like I'm just used to this solitary sort of involvement. So I think, there's an energy involved, isn't there, with connection and with people.
Sure.
I've got my phone going, so excuse that. But
that could be someone calling right now.
I know. Do I just take it? Hello.
That's an interaction.
There you go.
All right, go ahead and mute your microphone, though.
Yeah.
I'm just on a
go ahead, mute yourself,
guys. Can I
Robert.
phone you back? Probably be on Monday
All right,
now.
So Greg, just while Robert's talking, one thing I want to ask you about that people might be interested in is the terminology you've been using lately. It goes back to your ownliness statement, right?
I'm going to be on the road
looking for
probably Monday morning is going to be a better bet.
Champion-hearted fireballs, right? How do you define a champion-hearted fireball? The clients that you're working with.
All right. So for anyone who couldn't hear, Nick was asking, how do you find champion-hearted fireballs? That's a phrase that my mentor Jan Black and I came up with as we were working on my branding. And it's just, I want to work with those people who are total gamers, man. Like, we all know those clients. And Robert, I'm sure you love your clients who take immediate action on stuff, who just like, you dig in, you get the insight, and then right away they take the ball and run with it. And those are the most fun people to work with as a coach. And I say champion-hearted because they're either at a very high level or they're on their way. And I think we all know, like, there's people who have that heart of a champion. They want to be the best at what they do in the world. And then there's people who are kind of just cool to coast through it. And that's okay. Those just aren't my ideal clients because they don't get me to that
Clem,
stuff.
you're one of those guys, dude. I'm on the microphone to make sure people hear me. I feel it's like such a DJ right now. No, Clem, you're one of those guys, man. Like, when we had that conversation, and it's kind of like you wonder how some of the content, the things you talk about really resonate. But like, you call me the next day, you're like, dude, I got stuff on my calendar. Like, it's getting done. I put all this stuff, and I'm taking CJ over to this particular thing, and after that, I'm gonna go run to the store and pick up this. I'm like, you're on it, right? Like, I love it. It's like the champion-hearted spirit, man.
Dude, I had 5 things scheduled this morning from dropping the kids off before this webinar, and I was like, okay, yep, get it done, and bam! It's like, right now, I'm installing a light fixture at a friend of mine at my brother-in-law's house as he gets ready for a Super Bowl party, and I was like, nope, but I got to get on the Blab. All right, got to knock it out,
Have that plan and execute.
Got that plan.
Hey, Nick, do you mind if I ask Robert some more questions? Cool. So Robert, so you're saying within the business, more connection. Do you mean, like, do you want more live face-to-face connection with your clients, or do you want to attract more of a tribe? Again, like, what does that look like to you?
I think it is live connections, less in the way of one-to-one. One-to-one work is fine, and I like it. I really enjoy it, but it's also quite intense, I think, which you just mentioned, and it has that sort of certain context to it, and it's being in a more relaxed sort of environment where there's interaction that's useful and productive and creative, but in a slightly more relaxed situation than just in that one-to-one, which is quite focused and very purposeful in terms of the person I'm in connection with in that coaching context. So it's just opening up into more of a sit around a table and have a chat sort of situation, I think, really.
How long have you been thinking about this, that this is something you
Well,
want?
I think what I'm doing now, there's been certain sort of involvements in my life and certain events that have taken place that have now required me to take a little bit of a back seat in professionally, in my professional ideas. So now I'm thinking, well, how do I want to go forward? So it's quite a new sense of awareness, I think, for me. You know what? I just need to be with people more, and have that human contact more. I miss it.
So it's new. It's a new insight.
Say again?
Yeah. So I said, so it's a new insight.
Yeah, I think so. But I've probably been aware of it for a lot. I'm quite a sociable sort of person, so I do notice when I'm not interacting in a social context, but at the same time in a business context, it's finding that balance, so that I'm using myself.
Yeah.
So I'm using myself usefully with my professional ability and attributes, what I can do, how I can be out there more, being more proactive in that area. I've sat back
I think Robert.
seat a little bit.
I think this is a huge first step. I mean, you got into a conversation with 3 people that you don't know, one person that part of their chain and watching what they're doing, but 2 other people you don't even know. So basically what you did was come into a coffee shop and sit down at a table with 3 other people, and we're having a conversation right now. So it's nice to meet you, Robert.
That's huge.
Thank you, you too.
That's really cool.
Yeah, you too. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying this.
I want to piggyback off that. I just want to acknowledge you for, so you're on your way. It's a new insight. So I have a question now, which is, if we're talking about creative avoidance today, and oftentimes at the root of creative avoidance, that thing that you want to do more of, but you haven't really been doing it, there's some sort of fear. There's some reason why it's scary. So for you, what do you feel like is the fear?
I think there's a couple of fears. I think it's a fear of stepping forward, coming through with an idea and involving other people, inviting them perhaps, like you've invited guys onto this call here now, and the fear that I may not live up to expectations, that people will think, well, no, Robert's sort of setting himself up as being someone here, and me not coming through in the way they might expect me to. So there's a fear of failure, I guess, in that context. And,
or fear of rejection.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, fear of rejection. And also, it's commitment. It requires me to commit. At the moment, I can have my clients and I can arrange meetings with them, and I have meetings or calls with them. And there's a fluidity and a flexibility. I think if I get more involved with doing work in a group context, it's going to require me to commit to a structure in some way, commit to certain dates and times and all that sort of stuff. And commitment is it's the big C word, isn't it, in some ways? So I find that
can be. It sounds like it is for you. Sounds like that can be pushing your edge a little bit.
It is, but I'm up for it. I'm up for it actually. But those are things that have got in the way for me, and also my energy. I'm not a young guy like you guys are all young guys here, and in the sort of in the flush of youth. I'm a bit older than you guys, so I'm thinking that maybe. So that's a belief. It is exactly that. Yeah,
so that's a story that's having an impact. Do you mind if I keep going? I'm getting excited going in.
Well, it's up to you. What about the other guys? I'm concerned I'm taking up all the airtime here.
I think that's why we're here.
Yeah, we're here to help people, right? So let's do it.
Okay. Cool. Thank you.
So my question for you would be, what do you need to let go of in order to start committing to doing more of that group work?
I need to let go of my pride, I guess, and my protection of myself. That I want to make sure it's going to be all right before I do it. That sort of need for assurance that, it's going to be all right. Whatever happens, it's going to be okay. That requirement in me that always wants to be assured that whatever I go for will work out and provide me with a good result. So
that's a powerful insight.
Yeah.
And I think it's right on point, man, because as someone who's done group work, it's required. That leadership is required because you got to be the first to commit. No one's going to commit until you're committed, right? But we have this tendency to kind of say, okay, once I have enough people on board, then I'll kind of agree on it. No, it's like, it's interesting. I was do you know Seth Godin?
I heard the name, yeah.
So he's kind of in the marketing and personal development and business world. And one of the seminars, one of the things that he mentioned was there's a big difference between asking people what they want and saying, the circus is coming to town on this date. This is what's going to happen. Are you going to come? Right? It's a very different between calling up and saying, hey, like I could do a conference in your town. Do you think enough people would come? Versus the circus is just traveling. Like, we're in Cleveland this date. It's happening whether you're there or not. And that's very attractive to people. I got to be honest, as a business, from a business perspective, they're like, oh, the train's leaving the station. It's a whole different marketing perspective because you're saying I'm either going to miss out or I'm on it, as opposed to asking them to lead, which really isn't their job. That's what they're paying you for, right? So I love the insight that you just had, and I'm just reaffirming and building
asking for
on
a
that.
commitment, right? Versus just a open-ended maybe.
Yeah, exactly that. And that's so often my game. That's so often my way, open-ended maybes. Let's see where life takes me. Let's see what life's got to offer me.
Can I pause you?
Say again?
Just to reframe that, maybe it has been your game in the past.
My game, right?
And now we're just going with what you want
change
to
up that mindset.
So Robert, what do you need to, and then I want to start to wrap up because I feel like we're getting a lot of places. What do you feel like you need to embrace then, or what do you get to embrace in the next 6 months or so as you do more of what you want to do?
Well, I potentially get to embrace a lot of positive things if I step into that, and I guess the first thing I'd be embracing would be my willingness to step forward and just go for it. Take the circus to town and say, here it is, guys, who's going to come? That risk, it's a risk, isn't it? You know what? I could be the only one there. Probably not, but I might be. But okay, if I am.
You don't. If you don't do it, you don't know what there is, what opportunities are available for you. You have to just sometimes take that stance and go to the circus by yourself. You never know what outcome may be.
Exactly that. But it requires a willingness, doesn't it, to do that? To say, you know what, I'm up for it no matter what. Whatever the result, I'm up for it.
So are you willing?
Well, I'm getting there. So
that's not a commitment. That's not a commitment. Are you, or are you?
And I don't know, Robert. I don't want to force it, like what that has to look like. But are you willing to step into that? Because it sounds like it's something you want to do.
Yeah, I am. I mean, actually, when you came through with, is it Sam Golden? When you came through with that,
Seth Godin.
So when you said the circus is coming to town, that's it. That's the way to do it. Exactly that. You know what? Let's take the circus to town. So I got behind that when you said it. So rather than think, shit, no, I can't do that. It was much more of a, I'm up for that. Let's take the circus to town. So yes, I am willing. I am willing, Clem.
That's all. Congratulations.
We got another one,
Robert, man. Can I share a little insight since we're talking about effectiveness and kind of along the lines of fear and the things that you're committing to? The one thing that opened up when I first started this journey with Greg back in July, it was like, okay, same sort of thing, like this creative avoidance type of thing. I got this blog going on. I kind of want to do this or whatever. Just let things happen. This peripheral type stuff that we're talking about. But I was challenged. Okay, look, he said, look, if you want to try this coaching thing out, this productivity coaching, because I'm a productivity coach, not necessarily a business coach. Get yourself out there and actually do coaching. Like, forget about the blog, forget about all these different little peripheral stuff that you want to do, and actually reach out to people and set up sessions. And I did that, and it was a period of, I don't know, about 6 weeks or something like that. I probably had 20 conversations, and I built my confidence that and my abilities that, hey, I want to be a coach. Like, I like this. I'm helping people. I'm getting jazzed up. I was actually helping entrepreneurs, having only been an entrepreneur for like, I don't know, probably 2 months when I started having these conversations. I actually realized I could help entrepreneurs. Like, it just opened up all these different worlds for me, right? So like taking that step, it's always that thing that you're like a little bit uncomfortable with. And we talked about this yesterday too. It's like, what am I uncomfortable with now? Well, it kind of goes back to the same thing. I got to go reach out to these people. I'm more comfortable getting behind my microphone and doing a podcast and hoping people come to me. But the podcast is helping people, yes, which is what I'm doing this for, but it's not getting me business, right? So it's not giving necessarily the type of business that I want to get. So everything needs to have a purpose. And if you're not dedicating enough time to the stuff that's actually bringing in clients and moving yourself forward, moving the needle forward, then you're experiencing creative avoidance.
Yeah, Nick, that's what I was talking about the other day with the personal mission statement. Like, if you have your personal mission statement and you know what your end game is going to be, what you want your end game to be, then you can plan your steps.
Yes, for sure. The personal mission statement, and then for you and I, Clem, I'm not sure about you, Robert, but the family mission statement just feeds into that. Like, your personal needs to feed into your family. They're not necessarily the same. I think we had that conversation, but if they don't piggyback off each other, you're going to have chaos and headbutting all the time. So yeah, just getting on the same page with the people in your family, particularly your partner, your spouse, I'd say. Yeah.
Thank you.
Am I louder now?
Can I ask you a question? Nick, you mentioned that, okay, at some point you decided to get out there and get some clients, or get out there and meet the people that could potentially be your clients. So how did that look? What was it that you did that actually took you out there?
Well, the first thing I did, I got out on social media and I made an offer, and that got me probably about 5 or 6 conversations. And then I joined Tampa Bay Business Owners and started talking to people about what I do, and it just organically created these relationships that and wasn't afraid to make the offer to people, I guess. So we meet people every day. Before I would have just kind of said, okay, this is what I do, and just left it. But then you take that next step and say, okay, well, this is what I do. I do productivity coaching. It sounds like you're struggling with that. Are you interested in me, having a conversation, helping you with it? So just taking that little extra step of proactivity was what it took. And yeah. And nowadays it's, just taking that initial leap, or that initial, I guess, step of fear or whatever, got quite a bunch of different conversations. And now I'm at the point that it's sort of like a referral thing now. People are calling me and finding me, and it's interesting how it's all kind of came around. Like I now have the ability to kind of sit back a little bit, and have these conversations come to me because I took that initial leap, which is what I originally wanted to do from the get-go, I guess. But it's definitely not an excuse to not get back out there and have these conversations. But that's how I did it.
Well, and I want to point out a distinction, which is for Nick, there was an initial leap of kind of getting one-on-one clients, and there was also a leap just doing the podcast. That was scary too. And for Robert, it's like, okay, I might have my one-on-one clients, but I want to do my work in kind of a different way, which is scary. So it can be different types of leaps. But one of the distinctions I want to make that's common across all of them is there's a proactivity to them. Typically, the things that we creatively avoid require proactiveness. And if you can't get a no, you also can't get a yes. Like if you can't design a group program that some people don't want to go to, or a circus that some people don't want to go to, it means people also can't say yes. So if there's not an opportunity for people to say no, then it means you weren't direct enough, you weren't proactive enough. And people are often so passive, like, okay, once I get enough people telling me that they want to do a group program, then I'll design it. Like, that's never going to happen. Unfortunately, it's never going to happen. Or maybe fortunately.
I realized I was hindering my creativity by shooting sports still, by making myself available to constantly do every Magic home game or shoot a Rays game or college sports or whatever. I was hindering my creative desire to be an architect or a designer, a decorator, just a creator in a corporate convention environment. Because in my podcast, I mentioned how I plateaued. I feel like I plateaued, and I was just going to each game and I was going to each game and each sporting event, and I was shooting it. I was doing a great job. I was putting my all into it. Well, take that back. I wasn't putting my all into it because my heart wasn't in it. I was doing it and I was good at it, but my heart wasn't in it. So I had to realize, and my wife, who is my productivity coach, helped me to realize that we don't need this. This isn't something we need because it's not allowing you to be your better self, but it's not allowing you to be the best you can for this family. So it was a matter of setting that income aside. We don't need that. Let's focus on what really matters, creating the masterpiece that you want to call your life, and focusing more on your family and focusing on that desire to do better and more creative work.
And Clem, you touched on something I want to mention before I forget, that there's another element of this whole creative avoidance, and there's a fear, but then there's also this comfort, right? Like I guess they kind of go hand in hand. But you were comfortable shooting Magic games because you've been doing it for 15 years or something, and it was autopilot, and the money was good, but you were just kind of like I was when I was working for corporate America. Like everything was so easy. I was getting great performance reviews, but it was just not fulfilling, and it wasn't creative. And I felt like it was okay. I could continue to go down this and become a vice president someday, but that's not what I want. So getting outside your comfort zone, I guess, can be fearful as well. But there's always that for me, and everybody, most people that I talk to that are toying with this idea of doing something new, you're battling between what's known and residual, perhaps, the money's going to come in, it's going to be fine, we're all going to be fine, and then there's we're going to be fine, or are we going to be great? And
exactly, because at the beginning of each Magic season, before the season starts, they offer me the package. That's every single Magic home game, and I know what work is coming in front of me, and I could easily take that and plan everything else around it, but my heart's not there. So it's the fear of, this is guaranteed income, but let me say no so I can do better at what I.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
For me,
Nick, no, you first.
I would say the next big fear thing for me is like my wife's going to give birth to our third kid on April 26th. It's like we want her to be able to quit, but there's a comfort there knowing that she's making good money with a really good job, and she loves her job, by the way. So like we're going to be it's a continuous cycle of you get to a certain point in your life, and it's like, are you going to be great? Or are you just going to settle for what's comfortable? So like I probably about every 6 months or so, I find myself lately having to make these like fearful comfort, not comfort, but I guess the opposite of comfort type decisions. So go ahead. Greg.
Uncomfortable. Uncomfortable.
Yeah. That's
Oh, what is that word? The opposite of comfort. What is that word?
What is the opposite of comfort? I'm an engineer. I'm not an English major. I'm sorry.
It doesn't always come, does it?
It doesn't always come. No, not at all. On many levels.
I think all of you nailed it. I mean, comfort and Nick, you said settling.
Yeah.
I think we live in a culture that trains us to settle. We've been taught since we were in school to settle. To the bottom line, and to be reactive, by the way, and not to be proactive. So it's really easy to settle, and that's why I'll never not have my own coach. Like that's why I love coaching for other people, but I'll never not have my own coach. Because like Robert, we could have settled and just said like, oh, okay, so it's something you're interested in doing. But I'm like, no, like, are you willing to do it? Because very few people are going to do that in your life. And yeah, I think that's huge. I think that creative avoidance is about comfort, and it's about settling. And if you want to live a life where you're not settling, it also requires being uncomfortable. And so there's a choice there, there's a choice there, and you just have to live with whatever one you do. And so I think like I'm fired up talking to all of you because it's clearly you're people who don't settle, and those are the people I love to be around.
And in fact, it's that edge. It's that edge, isn't it? It's in that area where we're actually stepping out of our comfort zone. It's in that area where we actually become alive, I think. There's something that gets engaged in us when we step through and say, right, you know what? I don't know how this is going to be, but I'm just going to go and see what happens.
Sure.
David.
All growth happens outside our comfort zone. I mean, I was a little nervous I just never done Blab. I was a little nervous just hopping on the call. And Robert, I'm sure you're nervous when you called in. And now we have great connections, and now you also have proof like, okay, this is something I can do to build on. Yeah, it's a great point.
We're getting pretty close on time here. Thanks to the Audacity coach and Gabrielle for just joining here in the chat. Close off just saying one little strategy, and it's going to sound, I've said it before, but I'm going to say it again. It sounds kind of weird, but I've been taking cold showers. And I think that I know I see Clem laughing. I've been taking cold showers because for a bunch of different reasons. The original driver was because I sweat too much, and I hate that. But the residual, the side benefit I've gotten from taking cold showers is that every morning I get into that shower, there is this sense of fear, like, oh, I'm gonna have to feel this and do this, and it's like honestly, if you make that. For me, I'm making that decision, that conscious decision that I'm going to do something that I fear every day makes doing that easier. It's just like making your bed every morning. Greg, you and I have talked about this before. Like if you make a bed every morning, if you don't get anything else done this particular day, then at least you got this killer bed made. And every time you go into your room, especially for all of us here who work out of our houses, you don't have to look at that bed and think in the back of your mind, damn, I still got to make the bed. Like so it's what little things can you do each day? It's about these little steps of faith, or these little like non-fearful type things, or these fearful things that you do that make the biggest effort long term. Because effective entrepreneurship, what I've learned from you, Greg, and others, is that it's all about consistently doing those things, right?
Yeah, and I think, bed making coach, that's a good niche right there.
I find this interesting. So you make your bed every day. How many pillows are on that bed? Is it productive to have all those freaking decorative pillows on the bed that you take off and you throw in the corner and then you put it back on?
No, I hate
that is you know what's productive about that is that my wife likes it. That's what's productive about
that. You're just giving a lot away.
Yeah, that affects the bottom line.
All right.
No, Nick, I think you pointed out a great thing, which is something I wanted to bring up with creative avoidance, is the third piece. The first one we talked about is accountability and awareness. Right. The second one we talked about is clean cuts, not letting everything bleed into the other, knowing what you're actually doing. And then the third one is small wins, small chunks and small wins. So even if it's like, so I took a cold shower too this morning, but it's winter. Like I got snow on the ground. I'm not going to take the whole thing cold, but I'm like, why don't just while it warms up, I hop in it and then it'll warm up in 10 seconds. Like, great, because that's training the bravery muscle, and those things are transferable to your business, your relationships, and your health. And I think that's a great point. So small chunks, like what's that one thing that's scaring you? And then don't make yourself committed to it for like this year-long thing and plan it out. But maybe we just have one little group experience that we're starting with, or maybe we just have, pick your poison, whatever's scaring you, because those 5 minutes can easily turn into 10 minutes, 15 minutes, or longer doing the things that scare you.
Yeah, and as a sidebar, I've tried the warm-up thing, Greg. I'm sorry, I tried the warm-up thing, Greg, in the shower, and I'll still sweat for 3 hours after that. I'm just telling you, I can't do it. It's got to be cold all the way. All the way. Go ahead, Robert.
It's got to be right. It's got to work for you, man. It's got to work for you. Robert, what were you going to say?
The question I was going to ask Nick was, do you actually start with a hot shower and then go cold, or is it just cold?
I used to. That was a good way to warm into it. No, now I just walk right in. I'm like, dude, this is the scariest thing I could do ever, especially on a cold day in Florida. Don't judge me. We're not used to this. It's Florida. It's in the 50s, whatever.
Yeah, Florida. Okay, yeah. It's different to the UK. Yeah.
Yes.
But actually, the guy, your guy in America, the guy who wrote "Awake the Giant Within," what's the name of the guy? Tony Robbins. Now, he starts each morning with a cold shower. Well, in fact, I think he does more than that. I think he gets into an ice bath each morning.
He's got like a freezer now. I mean, come on. I like it.
So, a cold shower is yesterday's news. You've got to go for the...
Yeah, you got to go. Yeah, extreme or nothing, right? Yeah, just go all
exactly
in.
That.
Get yourself five bags of ice from the grocery store, throw them in the tub, and just get it in there. This has been great, guys. It really has. Definitely thank you so much, Robert, for taking that step, that leap of faith, and calling in, talking to three perfectly good strangers.
Very enjoyable.
And I've had a really good time, guys. Just wanted to let you guys know if you want to. Oh, Neil just got on. Look at that, man. Neil, you got the tail end of this. Thank you so much for joining, man. And we're about to wrap up. You have to watch the recording, buddy. But yeah, guys, please check out on the Make a Stab Productivity Show and give me your feedback, because like for me, I always want to understand. I want to help people like this Blab is doing, right? I want to get your feedback, know that the stuff on the show is valuable. So please check that out. Anybody else want to close out with some final
There's just
words?
one line. One line that's just come to me that's quite. There's David Bowie. Have you heard of David Bowie over there?
Yes.
David Bowie, the singer who died about 10 days ago. He's been, quite a bit of his music's been played in the UK recently, and there's one line that I heard which fits in a way here, and he said, "I have become comfortably numb."
Yes.
I have become comfortably numb, and that, in a way, that's where we go, isn't it? When we get into that comfort zone, we just numb out.
It is. We get institutionalized. I think that was a Shawshank Redemption. It stuck with me. I've been institutionalized. Yeah.
Yeah. Shawshank, good one. I wanted to say a line from that article by Carl Richards: "Say no so you can say yes when it matters."
That's right. Saying no is tough. There's a fear in saying no. No doubt.
Exactly right.
No doubt.
Yeah, I know that one. Yeah.
All right.
Well, thank you.
Well, I've probably given enough kind of my own quotes for the day, but I just wanted to let people know, if you want to connect with me more, the best place right now is Facebook. I'm posting a ton of stuff on that every day. So just search for Greg Faxon and just find my personal profile. Don't do the page, so you can get kind of the personal updates and connect with me if you want to chat more. And Robert, we should talk after the show, man. It sounds like you're up to some big things. I'd be happy to talk to you.
Yeah,
more.
and if you're on
Great,
Greg's Facebook, then I'll just be commenting on Greg's stuff all the time.
I'd like that, Greg.
You can,
It's late in the day here in the UK, so I'm gonna, if we can have that, sort of maybe next week sometime, if I make a connection with you.
Yeah. Connect with me via email or Facebook, and we'll set something up later.
Brilliant. Thanks very much.
Cool.
And thank you, guys.
All right, guys. You're all awesome. That was a blast.
It was a blab.
it was a blab. It was a blab. Thanks for blabbing, guys. All
Good
right,
blab.
see you guys.
Cheers.
Cheers, guys.
All right. Well, see you guys next time. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.